Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the Techno Critic, and this week's review is going to be The Legend of Korra Season 4, Episode 11, Kuvira's Gambit. However, before I begin, there's some channel business I would love to take care of. I want to welcome 2 new subscribers. It would have been 3, however, one of you, who will remain nameless, dropped out literally 2 minutes before this review began. So, oh well. So, I would like to welcome to my channel Supermanoman. I'm very happy to have you, and I hope that you find my channel to be entertaining and my reviews very informative. I would also like to give a very special welcome to Zabethy O. She is an amazing artist, a great person, and a friend of the show. She also follows me on Twitter. So, if you want to check out both these guys, I'm going to link them down here and in the description, and you can go and see them. Now, as to the rest of my fans, I know I don't say this enough, but you guys are truly amazing. Whether you're my subscribers or whether you're just casual viewers. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and it doesn't matter if I ever blow up big or remain a tiny, tiny seed. I have the best fan base in the world. You guys continue to prove it every single video I make, and I love you for it. Thank you for helping me to do what I do, and keep giving me that support. Keep watching the videos. Keep giving me your input, and we can continue doing this literally forever. And speaking on input, I'm going to ask you to like, favorite, subscribe. But most importantly, I'll ask you to leave a comment down below about what you thought about episode 11. This, for those of you who have been here, you know this, but for those of you who don't, this is not just a review. It is a dialogue and it is a discussion. Any and all comments that are left on this video, the reaction video, the previous videos, if you post it on Reddit, if you tweet it at me, they are entered into our discussion at the end of this review. I read them out and I answer your commentary and your questions. So make sure you say something. Do not be a part of the silent majority. Speak. Be heard. Stand up and be recognized. Now, let's begin. This episode is an excellent vanguard for the series finale and pulls no punches in terms of the intensity of plot and story situation. The animation alone is visually impressive to the point where you begin to question what you are seeing. When they said that they needed to save the budget for the finale, this episode is what they were referring to. And there's still 2 more to go. The season finale is not over. We have the final 1-hour special in a week, and I wish to God we could see it now because I am so curious. However, to sit and praise this episode for 10 minutes would not only be way too easy, it would not be a true review. While I love this episode to death, there are many finer points that I noticed, not just as a reviewer, but as a fan of the show. And that being said, I've watched this episode about 4 times in preparation. And every single time, I was enraptured, I was invested, I was shocked at what was happening despite the fact that I've seen it before. None of the scenes lost the intensity despite knowing what was about to happen. And that is a very important thing to have in your show. When you can do that to your fans, you've done it so well that it almost can't be questioned. Now, to start with, this episode is called Kuvira's Gambit, and no, it is not referring to the X-Men Marvel comic book character, which I do not know anything about. Do not question me on it. A gambit, however, is typically considered to be an opening move in gambling, in gaming, but most specifically in warfare, although it's probably best known as a tactical opening in chess. A gambit is how, in any real competition of strategy or strength, when it begins, the 2 or more participants are basically jabbing each other, trying to find the weaknesses of their opponents and exploit it. Now, Kuvira's move is not a gambit, not by a long shot. It is an earthquake. It is a candy hammer. It is literally the equivalent of knocking all the pieces off the board, all of your opponent's pieces, just taking your hand and going whoosh, and then dropping the clock. This is on an opening. This is the end game, and it is brutally overwhelming. I cannot even explain it. The episode itself, it is very heavy and very dry tonally and story-wise. The humor that belongs to this episode is so dry it should be paired with a Moscato to balance it out. That's a wine joke for all of you who don't know. Because of this, the episode suffered, however, from several cases of juxtaposition. And this is something I notice whenever Michael and Brian make a really big, really serious episode. A lot of people say bigger is better with Avatar. Not necessarily, because when it gets to be really big and really serious, they're still trying to make a comedy, but their style of doing it doesn't favor the situation. We've reached an intensely serious point in the story, and while light humor was welcome in the very beginning of the episode before the other shoe dropped, as the episode went on, the scenes started to become extremely tedious or outright ruined some of the biggest moments of the show, if not the series. I mean, let me give you an example. When Kuvira shows the president the power that her spirit cannon wields, she starts basically blasting ships. She's outside the city with her spirit weapon, and there are ships in the harbor, so on the other side of the city. She starts blasting ships out of the water. She blasts every ship in the Republic City Navy out of the water, and they are burning and they are sinking. Oh. I mean, Raiko himself, as he's watching this happen, and he is an unbearably inept leader through this entire series, most notably in this episode, he is visibly stunned to silence. Everyone who is watching this happen, Korra, General Iroh, Asami, Bolin, Mako, everyone is shocked to silence. With the exception of one character, where Bolin has learned to keep his mouth shut at very important moments, Varric can't help but start screaming in the middle of this exquisitely tense scene that this is the reason he did not want this weapon to be invented in the first place. Why? Why is he screaming this? We, the audience, have been watching the series to get to this point. No one watching episode 11 will be unfamiliar with the events of the last 10 episodes. It would be highly irresponsible of any viewer to be that way. So, since this pause and pace is not informative, because we know that Varric invented this, we know what the spirit cannon does, the writers must be trying to insert humor where it's not necessary. And it literally breaks the scene. And if you cut it out entirely, you would probably have one of the heaviest moments in Avatar history. And speaking on this, when you see the spirit cannon firing, Varric's reaction is completely inappropriate. When you see that Kuvira has a weapon that can literally level the city in a couple of shots, your reaction should not be, "This is not why I didn't want it built." This should be, "Oh, you know, it might have been a good idea if we had one of those of our own." I understand what the series was trying to go for, and I applauded it in the previous few episodes. But seeing the result is mind-boggling. As much as I did not want to give the power of a spirit weapon to President Raiko, it may have been better to have had that power in his hands than to be completely powerless at the hands of Kuvira. That joke, however, is not the only example, and it's not even the worst offender. There was a fart joke interceding the planning process of a kidnapping. I'm not kidding you, and I'm not the only one who thought that it was completely out of place. And I have Twitter to back me up on this. Knife Inc. referred to it as the single worst fart joke she has ever seen. And remember, Knife Inc. is a far better reviewer than I am, so that's proof enough for me. However, it goes on. One person who calls himself anonymous called it the fart that stank an episode. Nice wordplay. The list literally goes on for a good ways. I've got the real Bucky here. He says he thought it was hilarious, so you absolutely know it has to be terrible. He thought it was hilarious, and he deliberately trolls me like that. So, that being said, there were some very good humorous moments to counterpoint. Mako, despite giving very clear, very precise, very easy to follow instructions, causes the sheeple to start stampeding, and thank goodness, I hate to say this, but thank goodness for Prince Wu. It was Prince Wu, who up to this point has proven himself to be almost as inept and useless as Raiko, who calmed the people down and got them to exit the city in a calm and orderly fashion. The scene was funny, it was appropriately humorous, and it provided a nice break from the heavier parts of the episode while advancing the story and keeping us entertained. The humor in this scene matched the overall tone of the episode. Okay, thankfully that phone is dead. Okay, now there was also Varric's reaction to the return of Zhu Li, which was similar in humor to his scene with the spirit weapon. It's typical and exasperating, and it's Varric being Varric. He's being overly energetic and completely oblivious to Zhu Li as a person. And her reaction to him is wildly appropriate, and Bolin's reaction to Varric's reaction is extremely appropriate, and it's humorous in a point. Her story arc, Zhu Li's I mean, in particular, has come a long way from being the cold, distant, emotionless assistant in Season 2 to a master saboteur, a super spy, and a warm, feeling person. Watching her tell Varric off for his behavior is thusly satisfying. And it's a very fitting setup to the conclusion of their relationship. Will Zhu Li leave Varric? Will Varric finally come to appreciate her? I don't know, but it's the appropriate setup. We move forward from there. The episode also uses, and this is one of the things that I loved, it was an exquisitely artistic episode, and it uses a wide variety of compositions to give it the gravity that it deserves and makes it a pleasure to watch. First of all, you have the use of panning still shots during the evacuation and the preparation of the city to show the change it undergoes as people leave, combined with an almost pan, a circular pan around the cityscape. It's reminiscent of the movie Misery and how they show the passage of time in the span of a single shot, using nothing but lighting and a series of changing clothes. It was a great way to animate and show what's happening without having to construct a series of scenes or situations. They just showed us what was happening through pictures. The photographic still shots and the way that you basically fell into them scene to scene to scene was basically all you needed in order for the audience to understand what was happening. It lets the audience do the rest, and it really does show the high caliber of the artists and the artistic merit that goes into this show and their work and their creativity. I applaud them for their effort, and I grade them highly. Now, there was also the use of shaky cam. Now, shaky cam is infamous for being overused in action scenes and making shots impossible to follow and actually see what's happening. It's notorious, in fact, and people seem to be absolutely over it and hate it. This episode is an example of what a shaking camera can add to the scene. When the gigantic mecha, which is essentially a Jaeger from Pacific Rim, comes into view, when it takes a step, when it moves, the shake that they add to the scene makes it feel gigantic. You have to understand, I don't watch this show on a big screen TV. However, if I had seen this episode, I would have probably lost my mind. I watch it on a 13 by 11 inch screen, and while that's ridiculously tiny in comparison to what people used to watch regular shows, the appearance of the spirit mecha felt like seeing the Imperial walkers coming out of the mist for the very first time. It was intimidating by sheer size, and the shaking made you feel the power that this monstrosity was capable of dealing out with every single step. When it's considered that the size of the cannon used in episode 10 is strapped to one arm of this machine, not even one arm, it's half an arm of this machine this thing is strapped to, the scale alone is mind-boggling, because that cannon was probably 3 stories tall. They say that this thing is 25 stories tall at least. I'm going to say like 30, because it is massive. And speaking on the Imperial Spirit Mecha, it brings me to the next point. The twists and turns in this episode were Shyamalan proportioned, and they were extremely well executed. The reveal that Kuvira is not only a week early to the city, but has a gigantic robot with a cannon that basically shoots concentrated atomic blasts is not enough. She then proceeds to simply wipe out a mountaintop fortress just for the sake of it. It posed no threat to her. She could have literally just walked past it. But no, she just wipes it out. Everyone inside, probably dead. If they're injured, there's nowhere they're going to get help, so they're dead too. Korra herself had a few twists up her sleeve. Not only can she now go into the Avatar state consequence-free, the evil that stalked her seems to have finally left her, which I'm glad for. She and Kuvira are equally ruthless and cold in this episode. Azula would be proud to say the least. It's they surpass. If you recall, Azula at her height of coldness and ruthlessness, they are on par, if not above. I remember reading a book called, I know, it's a deviant, but I remember reading a book. It's called The Animal of the World. Now it's a very entertaining, very geeky book, mostly nonsense. But it has one particular line that I feel applies perfectly to this situation. Good can be just as ruthless as evil when it needs to be. Korra not only plans and carries out the kidnapping of Baatar the Younger, but then proceeds to figure out his weakness and exploit it. And she is completely and utterly unflinching as she does show. It shows us that she is not the weak Avatar we saw at the beginning of the season. And it's a taste, just a taste, that she is possibly a match for Kuvira once more. I am eager to see their rematch. Kuvira is, now if Korra is ruthless, Kuvira is beyond ruthless. Her presence in this episode is a heavy callback, however, to episode 12 of season 3. She starts to finish her character almost like a copy of what Zahir was at that point. I mean, if you look at this entire episode, it starts out with she clearly loves the person she's with, but then by the very end, it basically is she is willing to sacrifice that person in order to achieve what she believes is a higher goal. The scene at the very beginning where Baatar and Kuvira are holding each other and she's resting her head on his shoulder and it looks like it's a loving embrace. A lot of people are going, you know, Baatar, she really doesn't love you. It's all a game. I say to myself, no. I honestly think that Kuvira does love Baatar. The way that Zahir loved Pai Li. The two of them have a genuine love for one another. However, by the end of the episode, when push came to shove, and you had to give up one or the other, Zahir, watching Pai Li die, was willing to give that up. He did not go to avenge her. He simply grabbed Korra and floated away. Kuvira, now that the Avatar has her fiancé, does not back down. She then attempts to kill the Avatar with her fiancé in the bargain. I mean, the fact that she uses his plea for help to find his location along with the Avatar is a very heavy callback to the death of Pai Li. And it feels almost cheap in a way. It feels like they're copying themselves. Kuvira literally brushes off what she assumes to be his death almost immediately. Her actions are really, really reminiscent of Zahir, and I'm not sure if it's good for the show or bad for it. It was interesting to see her betrayal of Baatar, but I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure of how much it did for the episode. It tells us a lot about her character, but I'm not sure what it does for the episode. Speaking on her actions through this episode are extreme to say the least. While Baatar the Younger talks about how no one has to lose their lives for Kuvira to have her empire, clearly Kuvira feels differently. She indiscriminately turns her spirit cannon on anyone that she feels like doing so without a thought as to the consequences. I mean, destroying the fortress guarding the Republic City border is one thing. The people inside of it are soldiers, right? They are expected to lay down their lives for the sake of others. But Kuvira spots a sky bison and immediately assumes that it's Avatar Korra and proceeds to blast it out of the sky. Despite the fact that it was the Avatar, doesn't excuse her actions. I mean, it could have been a wild sky bison. It could have been a regular airbender sky bison just joining a patrol or traveling from one place to the other. Kuvira is literally loose with her cannon. She destroys 6 ships in Republic City's harbor as a demonstration of her power. When just one would have done, she destroys 6. And despite the fact that we see airbenders rescuing people from the burning, sinking ships, you know that the initial explosion must have killed so many people. And of the survivors, the airbenders can only rescue so many as the ships go down in flames. I mean, 1 would be bad. 6 is beyond criminal. You basically watch Kuvira murder people in this episode. Not just 1 or 2 like Zahir. She murders tons of people. It's the kind of megalomaniacal insanity that if Azula had it, she would have murdered Zuko and Katara. She would have murdered them in that battle. I mean, 2 master benders battling for the fate of... Look, at this point, I want to see. Here's what I need to see. If Korra is not the one who's going to be battling Kuvira, I need Zahir. I need them to say, look, Kuvira is too powerful for us. Kuvira is too powerful for Korra. Unchain Zahir. Because, quite frankly, you would need those 2 to fight each other before... I don't know. It seems like you need the two villains to go up against each other to prove, okay, who is the best of them? I guess that's what I'm trying to... I don't know. That's just what I want. I need to see the 2 of them battle it out. What looks like the death of Team Avatar is potentially ruined in 2 ways. First, we know that the season finale is coming. They literally could have ended the series right here if they wanted to, with the death of Korra in the factory explosion. And no one would have blamed them for doing it. It would have been the ultimate twist ending. That, you know what, yeah, Korra trying to find the solution to everything, guess what? She dies in Kuvira's opening attack, and that's it. That's the end. However, they would never do that, despite having every right to be able to do so. It would be literally too much to kill off the show's character before the season finale. Avatar has a history of doing this. The good guy always wins. Secondly, however, Nickelodeon released the trailer for the next episode, and it clearly outlines that somehow everyone survives. It breaks the traumatic drama of the ending, and it really harkens back to the breaking up and mispairing of episodes in season 3. I would highly suggest watching this episode in conjunction with the series finale. It's literally the only way everything would carry over and flow together as one consecutive narrative. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think that they wrote this episode by episode. They wrote this as one consecutive narrative and then basically said, okay, here's where the 30-minute break mark is going to be. Here's where the 30-minute break mark is going to be. Here's where the 30-minute break mark is going to be. Cut it up, separate it out, put it out. I remember in season 1, I was not particularly happy with the 1-hour episode format because I felt it didn't leave them enough wiggle room in order to explore everything else. 26 episodes, 26 half-hour episodes, while being the exact same amount of time as 13 one-hour episodes, doesn't give the... what's the word I'm looking for here? It doesn't give the freedom to play with your universe in 1-hour episodes as it does in half-hour episodes, because, well, the show ends one day and then next week there's somewhere else, and you have that, and it gives you a large amount of time to play with. So for these episodes, however, I do think that 1 hour would have been better than half-hour, because I would take 13 1-hour episodes of season 3 and season 4 over 13 half-hour episodes, because it gives them more content that they can pack in. And I do not, trust me, none of us want this season to end, not by a long shot. But here we are at the end of all things. What are we going to do? And lastly, moving back to a point I made earlier in this episode, but I couldn't finish because there were other things to talk about. This episode is very specifically the downfall of President Raiko. I recall from the season 2 finale that a YouTuber by the name of Kangal Tibbin was laying into me about my feelings on President Raiko as being a short-sighted leader, and here, in the very end, it turns out that the show proved me right eventually. I'll read his comment in the discussion section so I can outline his argument, but allow me now to go over what the episode gave us. Raiko is shown constantly to be caught off guard at all times. He clearly has no plan of attack, no strategy, no contingency, or any useful contribution to the defense of the city. Yet, for some reason, he is given sole control of everything. When Bolin enters his meeting, not only with Lin Beifong, who is the essential second-in-command of Republic City, but Su Yin Beifong, the now exiled and deposed leader of Zhao Fu, and the matriarch of the Metal Clan, the leader of the last city who was conquered, instead of assessing the situation and trying to find out what information they have to tell him, he instead makes an irritated remark that Bolin is always interrupting his meetings. And what is that? If he could have thrown Bolin out, he would have. But thankfully, the useful people, Prince Wu included, had the common sense and courtesy to ask them what they had to tell. And we find out that he only issued a voluntary evacuation despite knowing that Kuvira had been working on a top secret spirit weapon to attack Republic City with. And then he proceeds to later complain that he is no longer in his office in Republic City, and it has to be explained to him that Air Temple Island, being an island located within Republic City, within the harbor, is an ideal base of command due to its situation approximately near the battlefield and with its natural defenses. There is water separating you from the mainland. So guess what? Should a stray mecha missile or whatever, or go flying into the city and hit your office, well, guess what? You're on the island, removed from that, so you can still be in command instead of dead. And upon seeing the arrival of the Imperial Mecha. The giant super weapon. He proceeds to wait until Kuvira has destroyed 6 ships and taken an unknown amount of lives to surrender. He has the bravado to say to Kuvira, to order her, in fact, to stand down and take her army home. Kuvira rightly says, basically tells him, who do you think you are giving orders to me? Because she clearly has him outgunned. She clearly has him outmanned. I mean, she then goes and proceeds to blast the ships. The fact that she has to blast ships out of the harbor to make her point to Raiko. How dense is he as a world leader? You have an overwhelming force about to wipe you out. Self-preservation, that basic human instinct, should prevail and say, you know what? Live today, fight tomorrow. I'm going to surrender and hopefully we can work things out. I mean, on top of that, with the surrender of the United Forces, Prince Iroh, the general of the United Forces, heir to the throne of the Fire Nation, has fallen into the hands of Kuvira. Now the Fire Nation is beholden to the Earth Empire by fact that they have the Crown Prince, the son of their leader, heir to the throne. He is now captive and hostage. All of this, every single bit of it, is Raiko's doing. And quite frankly, I put the blame solely on him. There literally is nothing for it. His behavior is criminal, and I hope he gets what he deserves. That's about what I have to say in terms of the episode. This was a long review. Oh boy, there was a lot to talk about, and quite frankly, I don't think I could. I said 10 minutes. It's probably been closer to 30. And there's still a discussion portion to get through. And we have a lot of comments this week, so look forward to that. This was an amazing episode. I cannot wait to see what happens next. I can only hope that the season finale we get is worthy of the episode that precedes it. If it fails, I will be so disappointed, because this episode is such a grand setup. I wait with bated breath and anticipation. So, that's the review, and I will see you in the discussion. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this begins our discussion portion of the review. If you made it through the review itself, as always, you are a awesome person, because I know I'm very hard to listen to and I'm extremely critical. And I'm slightly repetitive, but what are you going to do? So, this is where I take all of your comments, all of your questions, and I read them here and I respond to them. So, we have a lot to get through this week. You guys have been amazing in terms of submitting comments, in terms of tweets. I have more tweets to read now than ever. Unfortunately, Knife Inc. did not get a chance to make a review. However, I do have her Twitter list, and in its place, I will be reading from the episode recap that Kiran _ did. Kiran the Writer. She made an excellent recap, so I'll be going over that and refuting points as necessary. Or supporting. You never know what I'll do. So, let's begin with the YouTube comments. Our first comment, as always, comes from Juan Rodriguez. Hello, Juan. Glad to have you here as always. Okay, Juan says, this was a good episode, but in my opinion, he's talking about Operation Beifong, by the way. This was a good episode, but in my opinion, it was way too predictable. Yes, of course, Lin, Opal, and Bolin were going to rescue the rest of the Beifong family. The problem was everyone came out unscathed from the operation. I was hoping that someone will get hurt or killed to raise the stakes. Finally, Julie reveals that Kuvira will attack Republic City. That did not come out as a shocker to me. Sadly, once again, Bryke made Kuvira the typical bland villain, taking over the world just like Ozai and Unalaq. I can tell you that we will never know her side of the story and why she turned the way she did. in order to put order and peace throughout the Earth Kingdom. Yes, I agree. I would love to see a spin-off of Zahir and his companions, and how the Red Lotus came to be. Put as things are, Korra might be the last series of this franchise, and Nick is done with this. But at least we got the comics. Also, I appreciate your comments in regards to how the plot holes and retcons of all the plot holes and retcons season 2 have. I must say, this is where the entire series, no, the whole franchise went sour in my opinion. For instance, the two spirit portals on both north and south poles. We never got any reference to these gates on the old series. Also, remember Aang was in both places at the beginning of the series. Had Aang known of these portals, he could have just walked in there, meeting Roku, instead of going into Fire Nation territory and risking his life. But also, Katara and Sokka, just as we saw in the old series. This is one of those plot holes that fans overlook. Well, Wand, in order to respond to you, I think that this episode really did raise the stakes. It was... let me put it this way. Operation Beifong was meant as a feel-good episode before everything got really, really, really intense. It was a taste of the taste. So... and it was meant to leave you wanting more. And it was extremely important in terms of information. We got a lot of information that we needed. So in terms of the plot being predictable, I'm not too offended that they did a fairly linear prison break episode. I mean, you're right, this is something we've seen before, and everyone came out unscathed. But do you really want to see something bad happen to Toph? Because, quite frankly, we need everybody else. So that makes Toph the expendable. Do you actually want to see something bad happen to old lady Toph? My heart couldn't handle it, and I'm pretty sure the fans would burn down Nickelodeon if they tried. And also, in terms of people getting hurt and killed, well, the entire family is hurt and killed now, so that's what they were saving it for. In terms of turning her into a bland villain, you're right. If you look at the last episode and you look at this one, she is Zahir. Zahir is her. They are the same. And it's basically the exact same as Amon and Unalaq. All the villains in this series have followed the exact same episode arc. And while Zelda Williams does an amazing job as Kuvira, the character is too evil. It's too cut and dry. There's nothing there to balance it out. She just is for the sake of being. I mean, we got a little hint of what her original purpose was. She felt that Su Yin made the wrong decision, and as such, she went and defied her with the support of President Raiko. And this is what allowed her to start and gain a power base. My guess is that while she was within Ba Sing Se, she saw the sheer amount of chaos and basically had to put her foot down as hard as she could. My guess is that the Dai Li also got to her quite a bit. And in doing so, it influenced the way that she then felt she had to see the rest of establishing order throughout the Earth Kingdom. And basically this left her with the point, well, you know what, I'm the one who brought the order, and I'm going to leave it to this guy, Raiko's puppet, in order to run everything? No. This has been basically her entire policy. The attack on Republic City this week, however, I'm not sure. I mean, yes, technically speaking, Republic City was a part of the Earth Kingdom before it was separated in order to stop the Earth Kingdom and the Fire Nation from fighting over it again. And here's the thing. Oh God, what's his name? The king of the Earth. God, what's his name? I'm not recalling it. Not King Boomy. The Earth King, when he in the comics, this all goes back to the comics. So there's a large plot hole here in terms of continuity within the episode series. when the Earth King went to go and take back went to go and take back the Earth Kingdom, the Fire Nation colonies for the Earth Kingdom. Afterwards, he and Aang went and toured throughout the city, and he agreed that, you know what, it's a very unique culture that had evolved there between Earthbenders and Firebenders. So he decided, yes, you know what, they can have their independence. I will leave them to their peace. We got a hint about it when the Earth Queen was talking to Korra for the very first time about how the Avatar swindled her father, as she put it. But it's been on its own for a long time. But you know what? That also raises an interesting point elsewhere. When you look at the map of everywhere that Kuvira has conquered, consider Kyoshi Island. It means that she went to Kyoshi Island and defeated the Kyoshi warriors. She literally went to, what was the name of Omashu, the king of Omashu. She forced the king of Omashu to submit to her. All of these states within the Earth Kingdom that we basically saw as independence, sure, they owed their allegiance or they owed their taxes to Ba Sing Se, and the Earth King is basically the king of all the kings. You can have kings, you can have rulers, you can have democracy, wherever you want, but the Earth King is meant to be Lord and Protector of everyone. Kuvira has basically completely subverted that idea of being Lord and Protector of everyone, trying to bring order where there was chaos. So, I'm not sure where I'm going with this. So, to bring it back to the original point, to have her say, look, Republic City needs to come into the fold because they are a part of us, and I must bring order to them. It's really just doing it for the sake of being able to say, well, I conquested this. Like, what's next? Is she going to go to the Fire Nation and basically say, well, I have your grandson, Lord Zuko, submit the Fire Nation to my protection, and then we'll go from there. I mean, it's... Would the mecha be walking through the ocean? Oh my god, would she be... that would be kind of amazing to see. Now, where was I? So that's the blandness of the villain, the other side of the story. It's not the best, but it's something. I mean, that's typical of Avatar. They give us little pieces here and there, and we are left to build the inference in the middle. I mean, it's fun. It really is. It's what gives us the wiggle room. And otherwise, we'd just be reading canon, right? I mean, look at The Legend of Zelda. That's something that's everyone has been given little pieces of here, there, and everywhere, and the fans are the ones who built all the theories, who noticed all the small things, who really made the mythology. And when if you look at Nintendo, when Nintendo came out and said, no, here's the mythology, and basically stepped on everyone, it offended a lot of people, and it really took away from the franchise. So I think that Michael and Brian have actually found a good balance in terms of, okay, here's a small amount of information, you do the rest. It gives the fans involvement. Now, as to the South and North Pole Spirit Portal, you're right. Aang could easily... They never referenced them in Avatar: The Last Airbender. But let me ask you this. Would Katara and Sokka have honestly known about the Spirit Portal? Would they have cared? And would it have made any difference in the long run? I mean, look at it this way. They're hunting for food. They find Aang trapped in a ball of ice. They free him, and at that very moment, the Fire Nation comes and basically tries to burn down their village of ice. What does this tell you? At the time, their priority was simply escaping from the Fire Nation. They didn't know anything about going into the spirit world, needing to get Aang trained. These are things that they learned as they went along. And while And while yes, at the North Pole, they there is a spirit portal there. It was far easier, quite frankly, for Aang to simply go and try to meditate his way into the spirit world. It was faster. And in the exact same way that they used still shots to convey the message that we needed, Aang going into the spirit world in the spirit pool the way he did, it gave us what we needed without having to construct another scene, another narrative. It was a time saver, is really what it was, and I don't mind. It was done very well. It wasn't done badly, so I don't see what the problem is. I honestly don't. And on top of that, the spirit portals were closed, so in order to get from there, he would have had to open the spirit portals, which, as we know, was a completely different can of worms. So, it's not really a plot hole. It's just something that never came up. I mean, it's more of a plot hole in terms of season 2 than it is for Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar very, very carefully constructed everything that they did in terms of storytelling. I really don't mind. I honestly do not mind. Alright, so, moving on from there, we have Adam Fukin Frank. I think someone just got me to swear on camera. I already swear on, I don't give a shit, but I think somebody just told me. Alright, Adam's comment is, do you really record yourself for an hour to regularly get 51 views? Don't you have better things to do? Well, let me see. Where am I sitting at right now in terms of my view count? Hang on, let me open this up. Okay, fine. Give me a new tab. 89. View count. The video he commented on was last week's review. So, I'm guessing that he commented at 51. Right now, I'm sitting at 172. And no, I don't make videos regularly to get 172. That's simply what the fans give me. If I go back and I go into my video manager, let me show you what I've got. I've got here we go. Avatar: Legend of Korra Season 4 Episodes 7 and 8 reviewed. Now, that review was done because I was sick and I couldn't get the episode out. I literally could not make a review episode and get it out. I've got 1,500 views on that one. I've got lots of views on many things, but the views are not the reason I make these videos. The reason I make these videos is so that I can interact with my fan base, so that I can have a discussion about the shows I watch. And simply because I love reviewing things. This is my hobby. It's what I enjoy doing. So that's the reason why I do it. No, there is literally nothing better I can do, because this is one of the best things you can do. I'm chasing internet gold. Will I strike it rich? Will I fail? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. He also said it was 4 a.m. and I finished finals. Well, my friend, I'm glad that at 4 a.m. when you finish finals, you chose me to come and relax to. Was it for more than 10 seconds? I don't know, before you commented, but I was happy to have you. I also want to read the response to this comment. It's from Feathery Dice. Yeah, Feathery Dice. Here we go. It's from Feathery Dice. He said, "Don't you have better things to do than make comments like these? Short answer, no. Long answer, not really." Guys, this goes simply to prove what I've said at the very, very, very beginning of this review. I have the best fan base in the world, and I would not trade you for all of the PewDiePies. You guys are amazing. The fact that you come to my defense, even though it might not be, look, I am tickled pink that you come to my defense. I am so happy with that comment. Oh. Guys, you're the best. I love you all. You're amazing people. Do not stop being awesome. And keep commenting. And finally, I have from the real Bucky. Oh, god damn it. You know what? he contacted me via Skype and wanted to know what my feelings on The Legend of Korra were. I told him very specifically, I'm going to tell you in the review. You have to wait for the review. But here's what and he then proceeded to try and tell me what his thoughts on The Legend of Korra was. I specifically told him, Bucky, no, do not tell me here. Go to the page and tell me, because then I can read it with everything else. Did he do it? No. He made one comment, one-line comment, and here is what it is. So the guy from the Rift's name is not Kanto. His name is Satoru. Okay, I made a mistake. I admit it. Moving on. Frustrating. Absolutely frustrating. That boy has his... Bucky, I like you. I really do. I hate very few people, especially here on the internet. You're an intelligent man. Make intelligent comments. Look, I can work with some of this. I can work with some of the stuff you give me. Have you noticed this at Nickelodeon's website? They don't have anything to do with Legend of Korra. I did an entire rant on that. All hail Fire Lord Azumi. I did a 10-minute diatribe on that simply because we had to go and look up who Fire Lord Azumi's mother was, and we still don't know who it is. Come on, man. You're better than this. Oh, and as for Adam, let's take a quick look at his YouTube page. There's something I noticed. Adam, I think, for all of his bravado, he's got. If you go to his YouTube page, he's got a lot. He's liked a lot of angry videos. But I'd like to point one thing out. He liked Homeless Man Gets a Home. So you know what? You're not that bad a guy. I know that. Everyone and their mother liked that video, but I didn't even bother watching it. So, because I knew what it was about. I didn't bother watching it. A homeless man gets a house and he's exquisitely happy about it. I have to very carefully ration what media I take in. So you know what? I know you're a good guy. Also, you have this thing here on easily butthurt people. Well, I'm not easily butthurt. So, it's why I do YouTube. So, that ends the YouTube comments. Let's move on to the Reddit comments. So, our one and only Reddit comment comes from BoyWar3. Yes, you can actually comment on Reddit. I don't normally do Reddit posts simply because it's extremely hard, and I'm about to tell you why. He says, just do all spoilers next time. Let me put this in context. For my posting on Reddit, I put all spoilers, Rift, Legend of Korra Book 1, Legend of Korra Book 2, Legend of Korra Book 3, Legend of Korra Book 4, and fan content. The many times I try, and I really do try to post my reviews on Reddit because it's one of the places where you can get a ton of input for your work. But every single time, probably with the exception of Game of Thrones, every single time I try to post on Reddit, they pull the video down because I do not have what they call enough, what are they? Tags. I do not have enough tags in my title. And it really is truly annoying. If all, you need 3 tags. If all spoilers covers everything, why do I then need 2 additional tags saying exactly what's in there? Should I put all spoilers, no spoilers, fan content? Come on, guys. They pull my videos all the time. It is the most annoying thing. But that's why I did that. And if you want to comment on Reddit, because I know a lot of people don't like commenting on YouTube simply because they don't want to have a Google Plus account. So I respect that. I respect that more than you know. So you know what? If I can get it on Reddit, come to Reddit, comment. I am on Reddit, Reddit/89tech. That's who I am. You can find my content easily. It's that simple. Alright, so that's the Reddit portion. Let's move on to Twitter. Alright, so at the very top of the list, I was originally going to start with a Korra argument I had with someone over Twitter, but I was speaking with one particular person at Jersfly, Jerzfly, and apparently there is a petition that people are signing to keep the Legend of Korra going, despite the fact that Michael and Brian clearly do not want to do this anymore. To which I responded to him, no, do not give Nickelodeon another series of Avatar. Give it to Netflix. At least they'll appreciate it, the fans and the writers on top of it. To which, and I'm going to read you this conversation. I want you to hear this. He says, he doesn't say Nick owns Avatar, he says something in between, but I'm not going to glorify his comments. He says, Nick owns Avatar, to which I responded, which is why it shouldn't be renewed with them. There is no good reason for giving Nick a third chance. To which he then replied again, they own it. Are you deaf or just... Look, there's... Nickelodeon. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the history of this. Nickelodeon does not know what they're doing. This is the channel that made SpongeBob 24 hours a day. And while they may be good at making money, they are not good at artistic direction. A series like Avatar is full of artistic merit. And giving it to Nickelodeon a third time is criminal. The fact that Nickelodeon was responsible, vaguely, for Avatar The Last Airbender being produced is a myth. Michael and Brian were basically told, here, give us a series and if it works, we'll continue to renew it. The season 1 was so good and so many people flocked it that they basically gave them a free hand and said, hey look, you're making us money hand over fist. Go. Just go and do it. And they did. And they loved what they did and they said, okay, we're going to put it to bed, we're going to leave it alone. Korra is Nickelodeon going, hey, you know what, we need money. We need lots of money. You know how you made us money for with Avatar Airbender? Could you make us another Avatar series? We really need money. That is what they did. And so Michael and Brian, probably under protest, but also chained by a contract, were dragged back into Nickelodeon Studios, kicking and screaming, to create The Legend of Korra. And then, just when they were about to be released, they put another 30 days on their sentence and said, hey, you know what, you're going to make us a second season. And then, again, when their time was up and they were about to be released, they said, hey, you know what, we're putting another 30 days on your sentence. You're not going to just make us a third season, you're going to make us a fourth season. Because that is who they are. They are evil, evil people. And so poor Michael and Brian went to work again, quiet and completely complacent, just trying not to upset their corporate overlords. And then what happened? They went and they slashed their budget for season 4, saying, you know what? No, you're going to make us the series with less money. Look, Nickelodeon, over the last 2 years, has 3 years actually, has significantly proven they are not worthy of the Avatar franchise. It is above them. It is above them. Now, if someone like Netflix was to get a hold of it, Netflix, who at the very least has the intelligence to say, hey, you know what? If the writers are producing something good, let's just give them the funding they need and let them go with it. If Netflix was to get the series and manage somehow to convince Michael and Brian to do this again, why they would, I don't know, because if I had gone through what I went through with Nickelodeon, I would not be eager to write the series again for any company, no matter how big the paycheck was. Well, depending on how big the paycheck was. Also, you, as a writer, you don't want to get caught in just one universe, writing that forever. There are some people who like it, like C.S. Lewis or J.R.R. Tolkien. The greats, right? The greats are always remembered for getting caught in one particular universe. J.K. Rowling tried to escape, and now she's going back. Why? Because she knows. She knows what side her bread is buttered on. Will the same thing happen with Michael and Brian? I'm not sure. I don't think so. I honestly think that they want to work on other stuff. And we will see. I mean, I guess we just have to see. It's up to fate. I pray that Netflix or some other independent picks this series up, and we can have a third or a fourth Avatar series. Or you know what? If they pick it, if they buy it from Nickelodeon, they buy the rights to it from Nickelodeon, and then just get someone else to produce it, because there are a ton of talented writers out there who also love the series. You never know. You never know. We might just get a series that's even better than the one that Michael and Brian wrote, because the fans are that invested in making it good. So that was Moi, smiley face, otherwise known as Jers Fly. Moving on, I had a very long and very heated conversation with @Makora_Nation. He created, and it's not a bad video actually, he created a video, basically 50 Shades of Grey, Makora. So basically Mako and Korra, 50 Shades of Grey style. It wasn't bad. And I responded to him, not bad, but #Korrasami beats the lot. And I posted my Korrasami kissing video, where it's basically the gif of the two of them kissing on loop with the appropriate music at the bottom. Now, what you're supposed to do when you watch that video is you're supposed to go through it and find the song that you think is most appropriate for the gif, and then comment what you thought of it. Or if you think that there was a song that would have been more appropriate that I didn't put in, you tweet it at me, or you type it to me as a comment, and I will recut the video specifically with that song. That is the deal. That's the deal with that. So far, no one's taken me up on the offer. I don't know. Maybe I should recut the video with Katy Perry's "I Kissed a Girl and Liked It" and just leave that out there for the internet. I would probably get 1 billion views and YouTube copyright claimed again. But at this point, I don't care. But moving on from there, if I'd been smarter and I'd looked and I'd realized that the person to whom I tweeted had the hashtag, or had the Twitter handle Makora_Nation, I would have left him alone. But I didn't, and he proceeded to respond to me that Makora is canon, Korrasami's not real. At this point, typically, I would let Catherine destroy this man. However, why should she have all the fun? So we had a very, very long argument, by which I started with the letter and basically kept with the letter. We had it was actually very interesting for all things that went. He conceded several points though, so I think I managed to flip him a bit. I'm gonna read you the last argument I made, because by Twitter law I needed to make exactly one more correct argument in order to win the thread. So here's what I said. I said, number 1, the letter is a thing that actually exists. Number 2, Asami is the one who dressed Korra for her ceremony, despite the fact that there are acolytes literally running around the temple who do nothing but serve the people inside of the temple. That is their job. And one of the things that they would do is take care of Korra. Who's dressing Korra? Not some random acolytes. Asami Sato, the CEO of a gigantic company, is taking time out of her extremely busy day to make Korra look pretty, and then tells her, "I'm here for you no matter what." And again, let me ask you, who is the first friend Asami meets from Team Avatar when she returns to Republic City? She's reading a science magazine. It's Asami. The entire exchange between them is not one of two friends. If they'd inserted the kissing gif then, it would have been official. It would have been absolutely official. And on top of that, Mako is basically the tag-along. He brought Prince Wu with him. Really? Not to mention, the episode, as bad as episode 8 is, the episode 8 balcony scene is probably is probably superior in terms of Asami evidence. Because let me put it to you this way: if Asami was a dude, and Asami would make an awesome dude, but beyond that, if Asami was a dude, everyone, and I mean absolutely everyone, would be saying, "Aw, look at it! It's so romantic for him to bring Korra tea and let the two of them stare out at the sunset while she tells him about her most intimate fears, problems, worries, and regrets." Yup, they're totally just friends. The defense rests. Korasami is a real thing. You do not get captured with someone, thrown in Earthbender prison, rebuild an airship, escape from, have that airship swallowed by a gigantic sand monster, build a sledge together, and then firebend that same sand shark away, and not just be friends. I mean, come on, they've been through way too much together. And on top of that, Mako basically drove the two of them together. I have to say this. Thank you, Makora, for driving Asami and Korra together, because if that had not happened, Korasami might not be a thing. So I have to be thankful for Makora, despite how absolutely bad it is. Korasami is canon. Just because they can't show two girls in a non-traditional relationship, simply because the network that the show is aired on is super, super, super conservative and old. I mean, they are backwards in ways that you do not believe. I mean, I'm gonna go back to my Brideshead Revisited. If the show had been made in the modern day, they would have had to include all of the gay sex scenes that would go along with a homosexual relationship. But because it was made in the 80s, when you see two people having an intimate relationship together, going everywhere with each other, spending time with each other, talking intimately with each other, it's code. It's code within the writer-director universe that, yes, these two are together. Look at it through the proper lens and you will find what you are looking for. Don't just look on the surface. Dig deep. Dig deep. Alright, and moving on from there. The next comment comes from Joshua Gilbert at Shuck Zone Studios. He didn't tweet directly at me, but he made a comment about The Legend of Korra that was just, it was so interesting that I simply had to include it. And I asked him if I can include it in the discussion. He said, "Please be my guest." So thank you. So thank you, Joshua. Go subscribe. Or not subscribe. Go follow him on Twitter because he's very witty. So he said, "Sweet Jeebus, not Jesus, sweet Jeebus, Kuvira has her own Jaeger now. This could only be topped if a lion turtle does battle with it." The image of a lion turtle just rising out of the depths to then go and spirit smack Kuvira. That's the thing. I'm not sure a lion turtle would be able to fight Kuvira, because to be quite frank, that's a pretty big spirit cannon. I mean, it shoots concentrated beams of power the way that Vatu did. It's giant. I know that the lion turtles are the literal size of an island, but this thing looks like it could be standing on a lion turtle, and the lion turtle would sink. And it's a credit simply to the creators that they were able to make it on such a large scale and make it so overpowered. It's amazing. To be quite honest, that would be Legend of Korra Pacific Rim. If someone could get on that and make that as a thing, the Jaeger versus the lion turtle, I'm not even sure how the lion turtle would fight Kuvira's Jaeger, the Imperial Mecha. It is. I would want to bet on Kuvira. I really would. Oh, wow. I mean, just wow. But I thought it was a pretty interesting comment, and thank you, Josh, for giving that to us. Thank you for making it a thing out here in the Twitter universe. It just goes to show, fans of Legend of Korra, are pretty damn awesome, and they are super, super creative. Alright, moving on from there. Our next comments come from the one, the only, the always great and always respectable Knife Inc. reviews. Now, while Knife Inc. has not been able to put out her usual review via SoundCloud because she's exquisitely busy this time of year, I do have her tweets from when she was, because she was live tweeting the episode as she watched it. And I'm just going to read them to you and I'm going to comment on them. The first is, look at you, Woo, trying to be useful. Hashtag Legend of Korra. Well, you know what? He was useful. He was very useful in this episode. Surprisingly so. The fact of the matter is, Prince Wu is going to be forced to take over the Earth Kingdom at the very end of this series. I mean, three out of 4 so far, Korra has beaten the bad guy and put everything to right. And I can't imagine that they would do it so Kuvira wins. I don't see them doing that. I see them wanting to end it on a happy note. So they've got to build Wu up as someone who is able to lead the people. It's a nice attempt, but you know what? It seems really out of place, especially with his history. But he's learning. He's changing. Maybe he'll make a good king. I doubt it, but oh well. Her second one is General Iroh's back. Heart. Oh, Prince Zuko, we missed you so. It was very interesting to see General Iroh back. It's a shame that we didn't get to use him more. I mean, Dante Bosco is an amazing voice actor. He's pretty good at what he does. But I don't know. I just wish that we had a little bit more of him. It's like they're bringing back all their best characters just to try and make the season finale as big as possible. But I'm worried that with everything they're trying to do, no one's going to get the screen time they deserve. Having General Iroh there is nice, and having him captured is worrying. But I'm not sure how far they could take that. I just wish that he had more to do instead of telling Korra, you better get out of here before they realize you're here. The next one is, stop standing there and do something. If a 30-foot tall metal monster that had a spirit gun on its arm started shooting gigantic, what are essentially atomic blasts at ships in the harbor and sinking them, one after the other, after the other, after the other, what would you honestly do? I mean, look, I know that this thing can't possibly be made entirely of platinum. We see Kuvira bending the gyroscopes so that it moves. I mean, I speculated that she was the one who was controlling it. When she was actually controlling it, I was like, okay then. I guess I was right on that. But it cannot all be platinum. We see Kuvira bending some stuff. It's like that line from Iron Man, the original one, when Tony Stark is fighting Obadiah. He gets on top of his back and he sees a wire. He goes, oh, this looks important. He just reaches in and pulls something out and the thing starts to go haywire. That's exactly how I feel about this giant mecha suit. It's super big and it's really impressive. It is intimidating. It is meant to intimidate. But it has to have a lot of weak points. I mean, it's like the Death... I mean, we've been copying Star Wars this entire season, so let me make the comparison. It's like the Death Star. It's like the Imperial Walker. I'm pretty sure it's got a really big blind spot. Like, if you attack the feet, Uh, I'm guessing that Kuvira is not going to go and shoot a spirit laser at her own legs, because that's likely to blow her out of the... That's likely to cripple her. I mean, she might try and whack you with the hands, but if you could somehow get inside, I feel like you'd be able to sabotage it, because it has its knees are its key joints. Its knees and its feet are its really key joints. I feel like you could sabotage it super, super, super easy. Just with metal bending. I mean, I know Toph says that she's too old to battle, but I feel like she could take this thing out if she really tried hard enough. I really do think that we could take this out. But I can understand why they're just standing there and doing nothing. It's that primitive survival instinct. If I just stand still, maybe it won't notice me. It's a Jurassic Park moment is what it is. Alright, and I think's final comment is, this episode's pretty good so far, but that was the single worst fart joke I've ever heard. See, I wasn't lying to you guys. It's right here. Look, the fart joke is funny, but it's not that it's out of place. The problem with the fart joke is that it totally smashes the tension that the scene is going for. And if we're going to have an intense scene, you can't be deliberately smashing the intensity with a fart joke. Is it the worst fart joke? No, I'm pretty sure there's a couple that are worse than it by a large margin. I just can't seem to think of them at the moment. However, yeah, it's not worthy of the show. It is simply not worthy of the show. Alright. Our next Twitter comment comes from Runic Lord. And he is simply at Runic Lord. That's called branding, guys. He says, take a moment and listen to Kuvira's theme for Book 4. It's awesome. I did listen to it. It's basically, if you go back to the trailer for Season 4, the theme that they're playing in the trailer is the exact same theme for Kuvira. And when you play it, and you think about the Colossus, it actually matches up perfectly. It's amazing. Some of the music work that goes into this series, I know that we rarely ever cover the music in the series. In fact, this is probably the very first time. But you know what? Going back and looking through the series, the music for each and every season has always been very, very fitting. When you look at Korra versus Amon, they know exactly how to make the intense moments tenser, the gritty moments grittier. The action scenes are always amazingly dubbed. And even the intimate scenes, the feel-good scenes, they have their own theme, and it feels wonderful. So you know what? I encourage you, go back, find all the different soundtracks that they've played throughout Legend of Korra. Give them a listen. You'll find that they're not that bad to listen to. And remember, I'm a person who doesn't like music. I'm one of 8 people who finds music annoying. Yet for some reason, I find the soundtrack to Legend of Korra oddly appropriate for the moments that it has. I don't know. I find it very strange, but go take a listen. It's at youtube.com/watch. You know what? I'll put the link in the description. And finally, let's see, what do we have as our final set? Let's see, we went through Knife Inc. We went through everyone else. Chris Pye. Chris Pye is someone who recently started following me. He has been maintaining an entire Facebook account for The Legend of Korra. It's called... Wait, it's loading. God damn it, so slow. It's called Airbending Community, and basically, he's been maintaining what is a fan Facebook page for the entire time, and he's got a lot of funny stuff. I know he didn't make any of it, or he didn't make most of it, but he's got some really funny stuff here. For example, there's one here where you've got the picture of Batar the Younger when he realizes Kuvira is about to nuke him, just so he could take out just so he could take out Korra. And you've got one, that very famous Simpsons scene from the Valentine's episode with Lisa and Ralph. You've got Bart going, you can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. It's amazing. And he's got everything here. He's got some pretty cool fan art. He's got comics. He's got pretty much everything. All the gifts, all the fan art. It's all here in one convenient place. So go take a look before the series ended, and this all goes away. And finally, we come to the very end. Kiran the Writer. She did an episode recap for me, and I'm just going to read it to you very quickly. Friday's Legend of Korra episode was nothing short of amazing. For those that have been waiting for some action this season, your wait is over. I think there's been some action. I mean, not on this scale, but quite a bit of action. Kuvira's Gambit opens with a heart-to-heart between Zuli and Varric that goes about as well as one would expect, given that Varric isn't quite up to date on how to treat people. Well, that's not the understatement of this entry. I would love to know what Varric's backstory is. Because he's like a Batman character. How did he become the captain of industry that he is? Because he's just so out there. How did Varric get to where he's? I would love to know that. And how did he meet Julie? How did any of that come to be? We've seen it, and it was already established that it's there. But where did all that come from? I would love to. These are the important things that they should be telling us. But moving on. Zuli confesses her feelings for him, and he replies that she should basically get back to assisting him in doing the things that she's used to do for him. Zuli is having none of that, and tells him that if she isn't his assistant anymore, and if he wants her around, he's going to have to start treating her with respect. Way to go, Zuli. And you know what? Way to go, Julie, from me as well. Here's what I think is going to happen. She's going to end up being their roles are going to end up switching. It's an old Wayne and Schuster flick I saw a long time ago, where basically you've got the master and the servant, and then something happens, and the servant becomes the master, and the master becomes the servant. I think it would be a fitting ending to the season and to their relationship. Okay, moving on. Kuvira and Buttar Jr. share their own moment where he tells her that he loves her, and she just smiles in the way that evil people do. She doesn't love you, Buttar, really. I can promise you that. Here's the thing, Kiran. I disagree. Being someone who is evil, it doesn't mean that we don't fall in love. I honestly do think that Kuvira loved Buttar, but she has an image to maintain, and basically she loves her power more than she loves anyone else around her. And and I do think it was extremely hard for her to do what she did. Because when she says, "I love you, Buttar," you can hear the shaking in her voice as she prepares to end not only his life, but the Avatar's as well. And basically, after that happened, she takes a deep breath, she pushes it away, she basically does the exact same thing that Zahir does in episode 11 of season 3 when Pai Li bites it. So she basically does the exact same thing. And we know that they loved each other, genuinely. So, those are just my feelings. Those are my feelings on that. Meanwhile, Kuvira continues her march towards Republic City. Prince Wu has a moment where he's not entirely useless. That's 2 now if you're counting. That's 2. When was the other moment that he wasn't entirely useless? Is it when he suggested that they evacuate the city? Because if that's the case, this is the exact same moment. They're still evacuating the city.
and helps to calm the panicked citizens for an evacuation of the city. Raiko calls in Iroh to help man the border with his troops, and the army awaits Kuvira's arrival. Worried that there's nothing they can do, Team Avatar decides to scout ahead and try to take out Kuvira's spirit weapon at the source. Kuvira isn't someone that likes to wait, however, and she's been on the move. I've been butchering this thing. Her arrival in Republic Nation territory is a week early, and Team Avatar quickly realizes that Kuvira has been keeping secrets from everyone. She has built a massive mecha for the spear weapon, which stands over 25 stories tall. This, coupled with her early arrival, spells disaster for dismantling the spear weapon, and Korra escapes to warn Raiko in advance. You forgot the part where she blew up several mountains and nearly shot them out of the sky. They basically barely escaped with their lives, but okay. When Kuvira's mecha arrives, even Iroh looks daunted. It is I was daunted. That's how big it was. Its scale is put into place by the amazing animation in Legend of Korra. It dwarfs the massive mountains on the side of it and manages to take out all three of Iroh's main ships in the harbor quickly. As the ships burn, Raiko surrenders Republic City to Kuvira. Meanwhile, Korra suggests capturing the only person that Kuvira cares about, the only person that knows how to dismantle the mecha, Baatar Jr. Tenzin actually agrees with Korra for once, and they kidnap Baatar with little fuss. That was probably one of the best moments in the episode. Korra basically starts explaining, look Tenzin, I know you're going to disagree with this, but and then Tenzin's like, Korra, yes. It was one of the most refreshing things I've ever seen. It's like, finally, Tenzin is not being a wet blanket. And as to kidnapping Baatar Jr., did they ever actually ask him how to dismantle the mecha? I don't recall that being the case. Instead of doing that, they just got him to call Kuvira and then spirit blast. Ay, ay, ay. When he's faced with his mother, when he's faced with his mother, he pulls a Percy Weasley, saying that Kuvira is his family now, and that he has no need for the Beifong. You're the second person to say that. Knifink was the first person I heard say that. You're the second. Is that what his character is based off of? I don't recall. Oh yes, I remember now. His character, I felt, was not Percy Weasley, but it was more based off of a character I saw in a very, very old Nazi versus communist movie. But you know what? It's probably Percy. You're probably right. He taunts Korra mercilessly, saying that she doesn't have it in her to kill him. Korra shows her cunning side when she realizes that she can manipulate Baatar into helping them. She tells him that she will never, ever let him see Kuvira again unless he cooperates with her. Baatar is visibly distraught at this, and after Kuvira realizes he's been captured, he orders her to stand down. Stand down, we have our empire. Let's go back and get married. Baatar leads with her. When Kuvira said no, when Kuvira said yes, we're going to leave Republic City, I kind of had the feeling that she was saying no, it's not in her nature. She doesn't, like I said, her ambition knows no bounds. Continuing on. Unfortunately, his plea falls on deaf ears. That's the funny thing about insane dictators. They don't tend to listen. Oh, I think she listened, but I think that she made a different decision. She stood at the crossroads and then she took the path. Oh well, poor Baatar, he's probably dead, but whatever. Kuvira aims the spear weapon right for the building that Korra, Tenzin, and the rest of Team Avatar and her fiancé are in. The episode closes with her blowing up the entire building. Through the season finale clip on the official Legend of Korra Facebook reveals that everyone has survived. My money is on the thought that Kuvira may have mortally wounded Baatar in her attack. Well, that's the only way that the blowing up of the building holds any consequence. Because basically it's saying, well, you could shoot a spirit ray at them, but you know what? No one is going to die because of it. Despite the fact that we've seen an entire fortress full of people die and 6 ships get blown up with it, and the few survivors manage to barely escape because of the airbenders. Finishing up, did Kuvira's quest for world domination cost her the one person besides Sue that loved her? Was Kuvira's Gambit worth it? We'll have to see next week in the two-part, I said part 2, in the 2-part season finale, which airs next Friday. Will you be tuning in? Yes, you know I'm going to be tuning in. Let us know your thoughts about Kuvira's Gambit on Twitter. Well, you could find her at rin_the_writer. And did it cost her the one person she loves? I don't think. Probably. But I think she felt it was a fair trade-off. Republic City for the life of her husband or her fiancé? Meh. The scales will balance out eventually. She still has an empire to run. Was Kuvira's Gambit worth it? I'm not sure. She seems to have managed to capture the city. I mean, she's already assured Raiko's surrender. She has General Iroh pretty much cornered with a gun, with the giant spirit gun to his head. I'm sorry, she's won. There's nothing Korra can do. Here's my guess. Baatar in his dying moments is going to tell her about the secret air vent that if you shoot fire into it will cause the entire mecha to explode. It's going to be the Death Star is what it is. We're going to see Baatar give away the secret of the Death Star, and that will be it. All right, so that is all that. Wait, hang on a moment. Last minute, we have one more tweet that just came in. It is from Joshua Stepp at Jedi Knight Josh. Pleased to have you. That's Jedi Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, not N-I-G-H-T. He says, it still feels weird to me that Korra's series finale is on Friday. It's been a heck of a ride. He also has a link to Brian and Michael's Tumblr here. I'm not going to click on that. But you know what? You're right. It does feel extreme. It feels extraordinarily strange to not have Korra after next week. What are we going to do? Well, I'll tell you. There's a series that Eva Green produced. It's called Penny Dreadful. I've been meaning to watch it for quite some time. And that is going to be the week after that review finishes, that's what I'm going to start. The series Penny Dreadful is going to be our next review. Speaking of which, if you think that there is a TV show, an online series, whatever, that I should look at, I should see, I should critique, and I should give my opinion on, leave it in the comments below. I will be more than happy to hear what you have to say, see what your suggestions are, and you never know what might make the cut. Although, Bucky, I'm not doing Danny Phantom. I am not doing a TV show. That died in 2004. So, this brings us to the end of the discussion. I was so happy to have so many comments this week. You guys are amazing, and you have so many interesting ideas. Those are my thoughts on Legend of Korra, and I will see you next week in the review.